Good morning, everybody. Welcome to IT Live, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Texas Homer. This is Ian Boyd. This is the Wednesday morning show where we talk schematics and get into the mud a little bit on Texas football. So Ian wrote this piece, and we did a show on it prior to spring ball. And it's basically, these are the things I want to hear coming out of spring ball. So Ian, prior to spring, called what he wanted to hear. And like a true gentleman, now he's going back through and seeing if we heard those things, which is a really good way to actually test, because you can start to morph your opinions throughout spring ball. So this is a good way to know going in and going out, were we able to hit our marks? Ian, we are going to look at these right now.
Let's do it.
So these are the things you wanted to hear. The article is broken down like what I want to hear, what I don't care about hearing, what I don't want to hear. Let's look at offense first. Did we achieve these goals? The first thing Ian wanted to hear was Cole Hudson is finding a great rhythm snapping the ball and looks like a natural at center. Coming out of spring ball, Ian, was this met? I think you're muted. There you go.
Yeah. I was trying to post on Twitter so all the people could come join us.
Cool.
Everything we've heard from Hudson sounds like this is not a problem. We haven't heard that much about him at center at all, except every once in a while people will be like, he's really good. He's a really good player. Usually it's like Campbell and Gooseby get all the highlights. But one time Eric had a insider report that was like, somebody was saying like, Hudson maybe deserves to be in that conversation as well. We have not heard anything at all about snapping the ball being an issue, line calls being an issue.
Yep.
Now, you wouldn't necessarily hear anything about that, but we haven't heard a whiff of like Connor Robertson's making it interesting. So just guessing. So basically what we're doing right now, we're taking different puzzle pieces and we're trying to see if we can make a shape that works when the rest of the puzzle pieces come out in the fall. It seems like this is great. Like this is going to go really well. He's going to be the center everyone hoped he would be when he was recruited. Gravy.
No news is probably good news at center. Yeah, well, Ian said it. They wouldn't necessarily say that he can't snap or they're missing line calls, but they would say something like Connor Robertson got snaps with the ones this practice or something like this. These are generally kind of the sneaky ways to say a player might not be performing at max, and we haven't heard that.
Daniel Cruz is making nothing at all. Now, we've heard other things we'll get to in a second. It's possible that let's just get to the next one and then we'll come back to Hudson. This is related.
So filling out the interior, Ian wanted to hear Umeozulu and Campbell own the guard positions and are ready to go. And like you said, I think we're halfway there.
Yeah, which is not great.
Right.
It's not good enough to be halfway. Campbell, by all accounts, ready to dominate. Umeozulu, I'm not totally sure what. I don't know if I'm just forgetting or if you've read something or heard something from Eric or one of our other reporters that indicates exactly what the struggle has been for Neto.
Eric said on Monday, I asked him straight up. I think it was just assignment soundness.
I'm guessing that means he's letting guys run through the middle at the quarterback too much.
Yeah, we didn't go that deep, but I asked him specifically because it seems like it's been like vague without like nailing down what's going on with Neto. But he was saying it's just like assignment soundness stuff and I guess preparation based stuff.
When you're watching last year and the snaps he got, he's very physical. He's very mobile. He's very good pulling. So it seemed like this is going to be like a match made in heaven to run more gap and counter schemes and get Neto in the mix. So if he's really struggling, it just points to the same reason that Hayden Connor started over him for the last 3 years, which is Hayden Connor does the opposite of letting people run up the middle. He was like nails at like being in the right spot and being in the way. You cannot get quick inside pressure up. You don't have to be amazing at pass protection, but you got to hit the right guy so that at least he has to hit you first before he gets to the quarterback. So that's concerning. For sure, counter schemes would be amazing if both guards were amazing at pulling.
And both have that
Both
athleticism.
are.
Yeah, both
Yeah.
have that freaky athleticism.
But Umeazulu just not quite putting it all together. Maybe he could do it by fall, but it's like, why are you not putting that together now?
Right.
You've been here for like 4 years. You're in the spot now. How are you still not getting this? That's pretty concerning.
Yeah, it is worrisome because we kind of felt that we were going to have everything locked down minus right tackle.
Yeah.
And now having to worry about left guard and right tackle is not ideal for us.
So there's a dozen ways they could handle this. One is to go get a guard in the transfer portal.
Yeah, some
Neto,
transfer.
go to the bench, Neto. Go look at your playbook on the bench. Another would be to grab a transfer center, move Hudson back to left guard. Hudson can also pull. Like he's probably his brightest NFL future might be at center. I don't even know. But like the reason Hayden Connor went in the 6th round is because everyone was like, that guy can be a center. We'll just make him a center at the NFL level, right? So Hudson, gravy either way, NFL wise. They could do that. They could start Connor Robertson at center and move Hudson out to guard.
Maybe.
Like that one less, but maybe. They could also, if Kojo is serviceable at right tackle and Brandon Baker's not totally figuring it out yet, how does Brandon Baker look if he's a left guard?
Yeah.
Because he's a freak athlete.
And he can pull. I remember the modern day huddles. Yeah. That was one of the things that stuck out about him is his pulling ability.
So they have a million options here. Depth is starting to become an issue. But so that would point you towards like, hey, maybe just get somebody in the transfer portal, the best guard or center or tackle, if you think Bakers can fit inside. But this is not answered yet. This did not go the way we wanted it to go, for sure.
Yeah, ideally we don't want to be having these conversations of possibilities going into the fall. We would just like to have 2 athletic guards ready to rock, but it is what it is. Shout out Campbell though, man. Hearing about him stepping up as a leader, all of that stuff. That was good. We also, Ian wanted to hear Ryan Wingo is an unstoppable force of nature. Wingo got hurt.
Wingo got hurt. We did not, although we got a glimpse of this because he played in the last scrimmage. And they didn't say Ryan Wingo is an unstoppable force of nature, but you heard sort of adjacent things. Like the defensive coaches were like, oh.
Yeah, the defensive coaches were like, that is not a fun guy.
We did not, that was not good. We did not like that. So
you also heard the coaches are not worried about Ryan Wingo as the number 1, all these kind of like ancillary things too that help you feel good about it.
Yeah. Hey, here's hoping that Steph Curry's hamstring is as minor as Wingo's appears to have been.
Yeah. Yeah, this will be the big thing with the Wingo, man. I wonder who he trains with too. Get him over to Margin Hooks. Man, get those releases nice.
Isn't he the guy that worked with all these other dudes?
Yeah.
That have been hit or miss in college?
Yeah, but that's not a Margin Hooks thing. Like he works with Jonte Cook. Jonte Cook's reason wasn't football related, you know? So it's like that's the thing. Margin Hooks. He worked with Stewart? Yep. Yeah, he works with pretty much everyone, man. Like if you're in the DFW or even Central, you'll drive up. He's got everybody. And their releases, I mean, some of the best in the country. I mean, you watch those workout videos. All the Margin Hooks guys are really incredible off the line. But we didn't get to see, Wingo's unguardable because of him being hurt. But we still feel good there. We're not at unstoppable force of nature levels, but we feel better there. And really, with the wide receiver room, man, we just got to figure it out. It's kind of mix and matchy too throughout the year.
I feel a lot better about it.
So do I. And I just every day I feel better. I felt good about Mosley day one, but I just feel better and better about that grab. I just think that was like a grab that's smarter than we even realize now.
Yeah. I also, once I started thinking about if Moore can translate outside, then, or if Mosley can. Somebody on the board. So I was like, I think it's going to go Mosley in the slot, move Moore outside to Xavier Worthy's position, and play Ryan Wingo in the Z in the boundary. And then somebody noted, like, hey, if Mosley can play on the line of scrimmage, because he is like physical and decently sized, you could play him at Z, move Wingo out to X, move him around, and play Moore still in the slot.
Yeah,
that's really interesting too. When Texas got Mosley, a lot of fans were like, depth.
Yeah, I don't think he's a depth player. Yeah,
it's like, no, this dude is going to change the season probably.
Yeah. And I think he's going to be a fan favorite too, because he's going to make those like big catches. Like how many after the 9th time you watch him convert 3rd and 6, the fans are going to start to like him.
Yeah.
And so that's the big thing. And I think with Moore, like when he's doing that move wide receiver thing, I think he can do that. Because remember how much they put him in motion last year behind the line, even for run schemes. So he can do that kind of stuff. The fade to Arch in Mississippi State. And then we keep hearing that we were talking about yesterday, but people keep talking about like Moore's NFL upside, that he'll be gone after this year, that he's going to test better than we realize, all of this kind of stuff. And these are the kind of rumblings we hear about players before they break out generally. So I like the Mosley hire. I think it's really good. Mosley is really good at finding space. That's important too. And anybody on closer to Arch that can be safety is important.
They
Go ahead.
They really upgraded the interior from the Bay with Mosley and injuries. They went from being a team that was like, this team's going to run the ball, they'll throw it over the top, it's going to be great, to a team that you can easily see them aerating it up at times with Arch throwing in the middle of the field and Mosley and injuries. That's going to be a whole new dimension.
And Quinn, for whatever reason, could never do that consistently. Like, just like he could do it in an RPO sense sometimes, but just that condensed air raid, your guy's going to run to a spot and sit down, hit him. Ewers, for some reason, just wasn't a part of his game. And Arch can do that because Arch has the confidence to throw over the middle and he has the release to throw over the middle. So we can do it. We can simplify a little bit, like you said, injuries and Mosley, just go find space in the zone and sit down on that 3rd down and make it easy on ourselves. That's what I'm excited for this year too, because it seems like we always had to try to do everything on hard mode or everything had to be hyper schematic. This will be more fun. And I think, like we said, Mosley and injuries can provide a little bit of simplicity.
We didn't even really, it's not even something that was like on our radar when spring began, because we didn't know they were going to go get Mosley and injuries. And now all of a sudden it's like, hey, they could run like Shipley, Kirkendall, or David Thomas and Billy Pittman type 2-man West Coast stuff in the middle of the field from spread sets and like get after people. Because I think Arch is capable of that.
Yeah, he is. Like whenever I would watch him at Isidore Newman, that was my favorite thing about Arch. Is like it would be cluttered middle of the field, and Arch would throw it, and normally it'd be like, "Oh no, that was a sketchy way to throw it." Arch knew exactly what he was going after, and he would do it. You're right, Ian. It almost took you out there, brother. We almost lost you. That's why you can't be drinking vodka first thing in the morning, Ian. All right. Before we go to the defense, guys, I want to talk about the Jordan brand. Academy Sports and Outdoors is your new home for Jordan. Gear up today and take flight on the court, off the court, and above the court. Unleash your greatness with head-to-toe Jordan gear for the entire family. Available in-store and at academy.com. Elevated styles and shoes for everyone. Unstoppable value every single day. Plus, Academy offers easy ways to shop and save time, like free 1 hour in-store or curbside pickup on academy.com orders. Or choose same-day delivery powered by DoorDash. You can order by 4 p.m. and get it by 8 p.m. No stress. Check out Academy's full Jordan selection today at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Like I said, I was at Academy this weekend, bought a bunch of shirts. Shout out. Coming out of high school, I thought DeAndre Moore was going to be a faster slot option than Whittington. I mean, he might be.
He is a faster slot option than Whittington. Yeah. You were right. You nailed it.
But this is where we keep hearing that, like, look, what we're hearing about Moore behind the scenes is like makes me feel like he's gonna run 4 threes. Like that's how they're talking. And so and we've seen this enough with them to where these hints normally play out. So that's why I think Moore is going to be good outside. As long as the hands are there, he's going to be all right. And I always remember that clip of him and Arch. You remember that? It was on Instagram. It got clipped and brought everywhere. But Arch is like the first week Arch is on campus, they're throwing fades to each other in the bubble. That matters too.
More throw to Arch too.
Yeah. More throw to Arch as well. Some of the trick plays we're working on. But that always sticks. I'm always curious who quarterbacks are working out with. I'm also curious who their roommate is, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Livingstone, I believe. One thing, 3 of Moore's touched. Arch unlocked Moore in a different way than Quinn Ewers did because of Arch throws bombs.
Yeah. And also, man, I keep watching Arch's every plays. And like so much of that offense that they would run with Arch everything was like going sideways a lot too. It was these rollouts, and he would be able to find the receiver working on these crossers. And he was able to do good stuff with Moore there too. So there's just a lot of movement. There's really no part of the offense, especially knowing now we can have like the find the zone, sit down, third down guys too. There's really no part of the offense theoretically that you can't touch adding Arch Manning with our personnel.
You know what would be amazing is if they could play injuries as an inline tight end and get away with it to where they could play both Moore and Mosley off the ball to the field. And then you have a little more space to get into your release without getting jammed up.
And you can play all your screen games because remember, a ton of that. Because what you could do is you can do a tunnel screen. Mosley can lead block. You can tunnel screen with Moore. So there's a lot of like fun stuff you could do with those two.
That's how Greg Davis used to do it. They put the tight end on the line, and then when Jordan Shipley was the flex tight end, he would still put him up on the line because he was up against like the linebackers, and he was the best receiver in the world in college. And then those two outside guys could play off the ball and get into their routes more easily.
You know what's cool? We talked about it yesterday, but what's cool this year too is we don't have the prototype Sark speed tiny guy that can't block, but we still try to force him to block anyways. So what I'm excited this year is like physically wise, all of our receivers have the body type to successfully block. So we're not just wasting plays by saying Bond's going to lead block on this.
Yeah.
There's no point. I hated those. I was like, guys, what are we doing? That's just a loss down.
I got an insider detail a month or two ago that the staff had explicitly told some people that they think they have guys that will block a receiver, either that are blocking or that will be good blockers with enough time. And they're going to be able to, like, you immediately think like perimeter screens, but they're also thinking like, hey, when we get into bunch sets,
I was going to say they'll bunch. Yeah.
We're gonna be able to pick off linebackers and safeties, and
then you can out leverage them too, man. You can get big plays with that bunch, and your guys can block. Now there's no one on the outside, man. You can get Wingo coming by, dude. Pick it up on a reverse, block in. He can go for 50.
It's gonna be a unblocked corner on the edge with everybody else blocked.
Yeah,
and then the corner has to not make a business decision against like Baxter or Clark or Gibson or whatever. So
yeah, that'll be cool. That was the frustrating thing. It's like to be a team that relied so heavily on screens, but sometimes we would, like Worthy was always a psychologically willing blocker, but Worthy's a smaller guy. Then you had Bond that didn't even seem psychologically willing or physically willing. So that's been cool.
I thought he made some efforts at times, but he was literally the same size as me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a great.
And not as fast as you either. So
not as fast. Yeah.
Bolden had that dog in him, though. Shout out Bolden, man. I never question Bolden's effort, ever. It's frustrating when those wide receiver screens don't work. Yeah, for sure. All right. Now let's go to the defense. These are the things we wanted to hear from the defense. Now we will test them. Trey Moore is a lock to start at will linebacker. He's taking to it like a fish to water. So I'm glad this did not go perfectly because it still does not make 100% sense to me why this is occurring. Ian feels much more strongly about it, but this is kind of what I expected to hear. That it's like, hey, he'll do all right at will stuff right here. We'll move him to edge, kind of in the middle of stuff. But I was never wanting Trey as a starting will linebacker. Didn't make sense to me what we have at linebacker. Ian, feel free to counter that point.
I don't really know what they're up to on defense. They've got some kind of sub package in mind that's going to be like dime, and I don't know how it works or what it is, but that's going to be a pretty big deal for this coming season, however that looks. I don't know how that fits with having so many good linebackers, but that's why I developed that 1-5-5 on their behalf. I was like, guys, here's how you can play with 5 linebackers at a time.
Yeah.
They're definitely not going to do that, especially now that they got that Watson kid, Murad Watson from Syracuse. He'll make dime easier, probably. And definitely the 2-4-5 will be good. This feels like an L for Moore rather than an L for Texas.
Right.
Because the first things for like the first week or two of spring practice, it was Leonga Lafau has made a leap. He's right now playing like the best inside linebacker on the team. Anthony Hill probably turns it on and surpasses him at some point, which happened in the final scrimmage.
Yep.
But right now, Lafau he's like, it's all coming together for him. That's tough. If your case is, well, I'm a good pass rusher, it's like, well, we don't have to have an amazing pass rusher at weak side linebacker because we already have one at both edge positions, Mike linebacker and maybe nickel. It's sort of a boundary corner too, because if Gilbo plays there, Gilbo's kind of a solid blitzer too. And Lafau also a pretty good blitzer in his own right.
He's blew up a couple plays.
The second half of spring was, hey, Brad Spence is actually really, really good. And then the final word was Anthony Hill still sits on the throne. So bad news for Moore. This would have been a really good fit for him. Could have been weaponized if he played that spot. Maybe that can still happen. It's hard to learn inside linebacker in a spring.
Yeah.
It's hard to learn it and be better at it than people that have been playing it for a while and are good at it. For Texas, I don't think this actually matters that much.
So this is, first off, why it never made.
It was probably I did want to hear it because it would have been fun. But as far as an indicator for the season, I don't think this was a very good indicator.
So what I said preseason when they even decided this move, this felt like an agreement, a return agreement for NFL draft stock. Not a necessary huge benefit to the Texas defense, but more of like, hey, Trey, come back and we'll put you in a position that the scouts will like more about you. It felt more favorable to Trey than it did necessarily to the defense. And like you said, it's hard to learn that position. I know he can move forward, but truly sitting back and getting
he can move backward.
But that he can move backwards in the way of getting to the flats and stuff like that. I still have yet to see him move backwards to defend an end 20 yards down 15 yards down the field. That's what I need to see. I don't care about flats dropping. I know he can move forward there, but truly sitting there and making guys layer, I have to see that more. No pun intended.
Well, we haven't seen it at all, but when he's because he hasn't been in that spot. I guarantee you he can do that.
We'll see. I mean, he's pretty
making
big.
a lightning quick read on the guard flow and fitting the right gap in the run game. That's tougher.
Yeah. But that's why this was a weird move to me in the beginning. I didn't feel like we had any issue with linebacker depth, and that even became more apparent as the spring went on. And then I don't know how you do this, right? On some third downs, do you get Trey Moore in there and like forget the strong side? You don't really need a strong side on 3rd and 11, you know? So now you have Trey and Colin both on opposite ends rushing. How do you kind of handle that?
Well, they already do that, so they can definitely do that more. Maybe another question is, can they do that on 1st down against some teams? Or do they have something else up their sleeve? Is he going to be like a 3-2-6 dime hybrid next to Anthony Hill and LaFau hits the bench in that package? I don't know.
Which would be fun.
That would still be awesome.
But also, too, like with Trey, like he's a pass rushing piece, but I loved Trey's assignment soundness. I liked him versus the run, you know? So it's kind of like will bum me out a little bit if he becomes purely like a designated pass rusher or something like that, because I liked him just as an edge on every down too, especially later in the season. So, man, what a champagne problems we got now, right, with pass rushers, when we literally didn't have one a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Ian also what?
Yeah, Colin Simmons just hit so big.
Yeah, what are you gonna do, right? And we're gonna talk about Colin Simmons here shortly. Ian wanted to hear Justice Terry's athleticism is translating inside. Expecting to see him on the field at least on 3rd down. We heard some good notes on Terry throughout spring.
The two that stuck out to me, the 2 notes we heard on Terry was, the first one was, really 3 notes. One was he works hard, he fits well in the culture and the program. He's not going to be like a bust. Like, he's going to do what he needs to do to be great. That's great. Second note, is he ready? Is he flashing in the spring? And the source was like, well, ask me again in the fall, because I think we're going to see it in the fall. Like, we're not quite seeing it yet, but man, I think we're going to see it with this guy eventually before long. That's positive. And then the third note we heard was they played him on a defensive end some, and he was giving the tackles fits. That one probably excited everyone else except for me. Because I'm like, I just start getting Jere Bledsoe flashbacks. Where anytime anyone would talk about Jere Bledsoe, it was, this guy is an unbelievable athlete. He could probably freaking play edge. He's so athletic. And it was like, okay, can he anchor inside?
Right.
We don't need him to play edge. We need him to play inside.
Exactly. Can he play his position that we recruited him for? Yeah.
This happens all the time in football. It's like the Harold Perkins kind of deal.
It was a little bit with Alfred Collins there in the middle too. Remember?
100% with Alfred Collins. Yeah, he needed like 5 years before he could finally. I don't want to wait 5 years before we see Justice Terry pay down some ROI, you know?
No. Yeah, we want to see Justice Terry pass rushing at 3 tech.
Yeah, even if it's just on 3rd down. Now, they could play him on the edge and then move like Simmons off the ball or Moore off the ball and do all sorts of different things. That's cool. You know what's cooler is Ethan Burke can play on the edge and be a good pass rusher, and inside and be a good pass rusher. And why don't I just use Ethan Burke unless you're really giving us something?
Yeah, we're not running low on edges.
Yeah, we're not running low on versatile edges. They have Burke, they have probably Vosick, they have Umeozulu maybe, and then they have Landon, right? Landon Jackson.
Lance Jackson, the little brother of Landon.
Oh, jeez, I always get those mixed up.
Well, it makes sense.
Jackson,
They're
who's
brothers.
profiles to that exactly.
Yep.
So Terry, you gotta stand up. He's fine. It's early.
Yeah, this is just us talking and projecting.
Yeah.
We're projecting the past on Terry. This is nothing we've heard specifically about Terry type thing.
Yeah, then we have our own wounds,
our own trauma that we're working through.
Trauma. Anyway, I've not quite heard what I want to hear on Terry, but we have heard really promising things.
Yeah.
All my defensive ones, my more indicative defensive ones were usually things that I wrote down as I don't want to hear this.
Yeah.
So if you pull up some of those, they're not all very encouraging. And they're maybe a little more meaningful.
You link it at the top of the article, right? Your original article.
Yeah, we can go look at it in a minute, maybe.
Yeah, we can do that next. So write this down. Jelani McDonald is going to be a star in 2025. And this might be literal as well.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, we've heard that. Eric's source said that Jelani McDonald is a first rounder.
Wait. Okay.
Yeah. Which is nice to hear. Now, does Derek Williams make him spin down to star? Because the reality is Jelani has to be on the field. Derek likely has to be on the field. So now it's finding your best five. So you want Taff up top, Williams up top, bring down Jelani. Whatever we can do to keep Jelani on the field is the big thing. So is he going to be a breakout player? And on top of that, is he going to literally be the nickel position, the star position?
I want to know who they're thinking of when they're like, we're going to play a lot of defensive backs this year. We're going to play a lot. And we're going to play dime. And dime is going to be a big thing. Who are they thinking of? Who are the guys that are going to be
the sixth DB that they're like, we have to get on the field?
Yeah. And that's not obvious to me. Maybe Derek Williams looks really good in rehab, in which case that's one for sure. That guy takes a backseat to no one on talent if he's back on form.
Well, they're saying Taff, Derek Williams up top, Jelani at star, Jalen at corner, Manny at corner. So who's number 6?
Kobe Black.
That's what I'm saying. Kobe. I don't.
Gilbo goes back inside. Who's the other? Jordan Johnson or Bell seems like, at the very least, they think he can sub in multiple spots and keep the trains on time. Sounds like. But I'm wondering, is Wardell Mack special? You hear about the nickels behind him, hey, they think Grayson Littleton's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But he's still behind Wardell Mack. How does Wardell Mack look? If I could know one thing, I should tell the Eric this and he could probably find out. What's the word on Wardell Mack?
Yeah.
That
is what's interesting. It's hey, we're going to play dime, and dime hints that you're at an overflow of DBs. You have to get on the field. So that's where it's kind of weird. We'll see. But I think as far as Jelani McDonald is going to be a player, I think you could check that off. All right, let's pull up your original article, and then we can hit what you were saying. I think you have it here. Let's see. As it loads slowly. Come on. All right, this is what you don't need to hear. Let's look. And you said your defensive side is what you don't want to hear?
Yeah.
Where is it on defense? Because these are offensive takes. Jordan Washington, Matthew Colin. Did you do one for offense and defense?
Yeah.
Okay. I need to find your defensive one. Did you link both?
I hope so. I think so.
All right, let's see. Let's try defense.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what you don't want to hear. Okay. So what you don't want to hear is stars a committee. They have lots of guys who can play there. That's literally it.
Sort of hearing that right now, but we're also suspicious that it'll just be McDonald.
It's going to be Jelani.
I will say this. I saw a video of him doing a press conference where you could see more of his body when he was sitting there. And he has stayed at 205 and he doesn't look overly large for what you want from coverage from that position. And some of my questions with him was like, is he so big that he should just play at safety? And asking him to turn and run with people in the slot is just not a good idea. And I don't know. We'll see. If you're like, show me a picture of a 6'2" person that could realistically play in the slot, it would look like Jelani McDonald, where he's like not small, but he's like a little more basketball body than football body, if that,
Yeah.
Like he's muscular and strong, but he's not like super bulky and jacked in a way where you would be like, I don't know about turning that.
It would be cumbersome.
Yeah.
So once they settle in on an identity, they could be great.
You don't want to hear that.
Yeah, but I haven't heard that verbatim. I've heard that this team is going to be not as experienced, but maybe just more athletic, NFL athleticism, which is weird because we got 12 guys drafted. But just like, I don't know, a higher RPM defense, more willing to hit, faster to arrive at the ball, but might do some dumb stuff occasionally compared to last year, which was like them making a mistake was hyper rare. So, but I didn't feel like, do you feel like that you heard this? Yeah.
Not really. No. It sounds like maybe they've got vision for the identity of the defense that is like maybe a little under wraps or like maybe not quite fully developed, but it doesn't seem like they lack. Every time you hear like what Dwayne Aquina thinks or what this guy thinks, it sounds like they know exactly what they want to do.
Yeah.
Not like we heard in 2019, we heard from a source. It was like, how's the defense doing? And it was like that. It was like, if they can just figure out what they're going to do, then they can be great. But they do something completely different every week, it feels like. Yeah, and that was the year when they had like 8 amazing defensive backs. And like Joseph Osai started the year at inside linebacker. And they weren't sure where Malcolm Roach was going to play. And it was like, they have all these pieces that are really good, but they all have to fit together somehow. And Todd Orlando doesn't seem to know how that's going to work yet. And sure enough, that defense that year ended up being pretty bad. Although they may have actually figured it out with a 3-2-6, and then like every single defensive back got injured one at a time. So maybe it would have worked out for Orlando after all.
So graded overall versus what you wanted to hear, didn't want to hear, blah, blah, blah. Where are you at? Do you feel? I would say like a B-?
I mean, based on my questions, it doesn't sound that great on defense, and it sounds decent on offense.
So C.
But I don't know. What were the I don't want to hear on offense? Can you pull that up real quick?
You don't want to hear on offense.
Yeah.
Let's see. What you didn't want to hear on offense. You did not want to hear Jordan Washington just needs to get in the playbook a little more and it'll come together.
That's pretty much what happened, but they have jack injuries, so it doesn't matter anymore.
Okay. And then they don't have one great receiver. They have a lot of guys who can get the job done. We are kind of in that space.
They seem to be saying that Wingo can be the guy.
Yeah.
And they also, like, Moore and Mosley just feels...
I feel a lot better about this room.
Yeah, it's not like McCutcheon, maybe. Livingstone was good early in practice.
Yeah.
It's not...
And I can see it more. Like when me and you are talking, we're actually able to make sense of it on who could play where and know the skill sets. That matters too.
Yep. So that's it. Apparently I only had 2. So, yeah, overall, pretty good. Pretty good. Probably the most encouraging things that happened this spring were adding Murad Watson, Jack Injuries, Emmett Mosley, 5th of that name. And then if they add a transfer interior lineman or right tackle, then you'll feel really good. And then they headed a quarterback, which was like not even on the radar.
Not even on the radar, but also feel a lot better about that. Like I was not even thinking about that, but I was like, hey, that's if you got the extra spot, why would you not do that?
So I like it for disaster insurance.
Mhm.
I think you can beat one of the weaker or middle rung teams on the schedule with Matthew Caldwell, right? The new guy.
I don't know his first name, but yeah, last name Caldwell.
I think he probably raises your floor. This does not speak well to what they thought they could do with Trey Owens or KJ Lacey. Like, there's no sugarcoating that.
Yeah, but I think it's more Trey Owens because KJ Lacey, dude, he's been here for like 3 days.
Yeah. I'm not worried about KJ. I think KJ Lacey, I think he's going to be great. I'm all aboard with KJ Lacey in the future. But for Trey Owens, either they didn't have the tight ends they needed to make the offense work with him, like they did with Quinn Ewers.
Right, because Trey has limited mobility.
And or he just doesn't get it well enough to execute.
Which is weird because spring ball last year, that's why spring ball is important, Coach Sark. Bring back the spring game. But like he looked good in the spring game last year. I thought his trajectory was going to be more linear, but
punter and kicker. Yeah, those have been very shored up. Sailor Joe says Trey leaves in the fall. Well, I kind of doubt it actually, because he has the chance to compete and grow and still potentially beat out Caldwell for the backup job. And there's just really no point in leaving in the fall.
Well, here's my thing. Because
you leave in the winter.
Well, Arch is going to be here 2 years regardless, right? And you're not beating out Arch Manning. So it's like you were already mentally understanding that you have at least 2 years before you really have to compete. Caldwell only has – how many years does Caldwell has? 2 years of eligibility.
I think one.
So you're not even going to have to compete with Caldwell when it comes time to actually getting a number one job. And to me, Trey Owens always felt more like Mac, like with Bama. Like stay a while, develop, and then you're going to get your chance. Because unless he wants to go somewhere and play right now, which, all power to you there. We know how it works with quarterbacks. But realistically, you were never even going to get a chance to start for at least 2 years.
Yeah. There's no point in leaving right now. If in the fall he's falling behind KJ Lacey, then he probably goes.
Yeah.
But
what is the stat? 50% of quarterbacks leave. And then Ryan makes a point too. You also got Dia Bell coming in. So it's like you'll know pretty quick if Dia jumps you in the coming years or KJ does. But as far as mindset, you were never going to start for a while at least.
I think we will see KJ Lacey before we see Dia Bell, but we'll see. I really haven't dove in with Dia Bell yet. I haven't watched like full games of his like I do for
Yeah, I've just watched Tuttle so far on Dia.
Oh, though I don't know. I don't think I've even watched. I watched the Tuttle like maybe once, like a year ago. All I know is his dad is awesome, and the right values the right things to be an amazing sports dad. Like Raja Bell was like a role player, defense first in the NBA. Like go try to take it to shut down Kobe Bryant, not care how many points I'm going to score kind of guy.
Yeah.
Journeyman, played with multiple teams, including some contenders in the NBA. And if you ever listen to him on his podcast on The Ringer, The Real Ones, they'll ask him questions like, isn't it kind of lame that all these players do like different gun symbols when they make threes, and then John Morant does one and he gets fined? And then Raja Bell's like, no nonsense. He's like, Ja brought this on himself.
Right. It wasn't the hand sign. It was being in the club with a gun is what brought
all the other alleged things that John Morant has done involving firearms. He almost seems like a military dad. Only instead of military, it's literal professional sports.
Yeah, but those, I'm telling you, those journeyman 6-man, those guys get it better than everyone.
Del Curry.
They just get it. They understand what it is and what it takes. There's a humbleness there that's super rare with athletes.
Also, we don't know exactly the extent to which Diabell's genetics are, at least 50% of Raja's. We know that.
Yeah.
Raja was a good NBA player, not an elite NBA athlete. But any NBA athlete is like
Incredible.
mega super plus in any other kind of sport generally.
Yeah.
So,
NBA athletes, when you're talking size and speed and being able to move your body at 6 whatever, they're incredible. And the reality is they outgrow most sports. Like you're not going to be a 6'9" football player, so you get forced into basketball. But if those guys weren't 6'9" and you kept that athleticism at 6'3", those guys would be in the NFL.
If you ever heard Michael Jordan's like combine type specs, Michael Jordan was like 4'2" or 4'3" or something insane. He had like 25 vision, something insane on that. Obviously, the vertical, lateral agility. He was a freak athlete beyond like the most freakish wide receiver you can think of.
Yeah.
Like he would have made Calvin Johnson look like a child.
Well, dude, you look at the body control of these guys at 6'10". Like these are insane athletes that have been forced into basketball. But if you scaled them down, they'd be killers. All right.
Yeah. But they would also have a lot of surface area and take a ton of shots and maybe just get injured.
That's true. All right. Let's talk maximizing and unleashing Colin Simmons. So let's get the crowd to turn against you, Ian. This was an Ian special. A take that will naturally go against the crowd at first, and then Ian will win you over by the end of it. This is an Ian Boyd article special. This is a formula that works great with him. So Ian here is saying that he thinks a really important aspect of Colin Simmons' game will be his ability not to rush the passer, but what he can do to help people whenever he drops into coverage. And people will go immediately, why am I going to take my first-round pick pass rusher and not pass rush him? Aren't we wasting critical resources? And then Ian starts off by comparing this to the idea of the tight end. So what is the idea of the tight end, Ian?
I posted this amazing meme that Max Toscano on Twitter invented, and he's using it all the time because he's always specializing in tight end analysis. And his point is like in the NFL, you get all these guys that people think are like great tight ends or great tight end prospects, and they're just big receivers. So you don't get any of the hybrid dimension to their play, and eventually it works against them. And this is actually even worse in college, because in college you have to run the ball. And if your quarterback is not a runner, your tight end has to execute key blocks for your run game to work in the spread offense that everybody runs. And so there's a reason that Billingsley and Nyblack didn't see the field that much for Texas.
Right.
There's a reason that Jatavian Sanders got paired with jumbo linemen and Gunnar Helm a lot. It's because if they don't block, they're not actually hybrids. They're just big receivers.
Correct. And it's something that I was angry about all preseason. I don't care about pass catching tight ends if they can't block, because you're not a tight end.
Yeah, you're just a big receiver.
Correct. And at that point, you're a big receiver. And at that point, when we start comparing your receivers, now you're slow as hell for a receiver, and all we can do is moss you or scheme you open. But this point here, why he's saying a tight end, to call a tight end when they're really just catching the ball, is because you're not including the value of the full position. So Ian states that the edge is not just a pass rusher. The edge is supposed to be a hybridized outside linebacker, meaning that he's going to have to do some linebacker duties opposed to just purely being a weak side defensive end whose job is to stop the run and then rush. So if you're looking at Colin Simmons as an edge, we know he can pass rush. We know he's a killer there, but can he play the full position? And by playing the full position, is he able to unlock the rest of the defense?
Yes. Is he really an edge, or is he just a small, fast defensive end?
Yeah.
And Eric had a note that is the reason I wrote this article. Eric had a note in one of the practice reports that Simmons he looks as much like a freak when he was like covering a running back or somebody out as he does when he's rushing the passer, which makes sense. Most of these edges are usually pretty good going backwards if they need to be. But
so reason number one you would drop Colin Simmons is that he's good at it and he can do it. And then you talk about
the real key to this is like, you're like, okay, just because he can do it doesn't mean he should. Like, he's better at rushing the passer, so why would you ever use him at something else, even if he's good at it? I'll tell you why. Because rushing the passer in college is overrated.
Why do you think that?
Because college offenses on if they're not facing like 2nd and 10 or 3rd and long, and sometimes even when they're running the ball, they're running a shot type play where the quarterback gets the ball out in like 3 seconds. They're running a screen. They're running an RPO where they're not even pass blocking, and the quarterback's just the opportunities you have in college where the quarterback is holding the ball for more than 3 seconds to try to figure out where to throw it, and it's not just pre-programmed for him.
It might happen 8 times.
It doesn't happen very much.
Yeah, because if you think about it, say you're running 70 plays, half of those are going to be runs. So now you're down to 35. And then you start getting into these quick games. You know, you can count post-game. You'll see, how did we do on 3rd and long? And they'll say 1 out, they stopped them 1 out of 4 times. So that means you end up in situations where it's happening 4 times a game. And then if you do it on add in other downs, there might be 8 true pass rush situations where the quarterback is scanning the field trying to throw deep.
And a lot of them are going to be play action. And Colin Simmons is going to be doubled by a tackle and a guard, a tackle with a tight end chip, a tackle with a running back chip.
They're going to max protect and keep running backs.
They're going to max protect. So it's not like you just one-on-one and you get to get in your bag. That's just not how college works. And
especially if they know you can pass rush.
Yes.
They're going to scheme to avoid that.
Yes. The NFL is a different animal because teams actually know they actually have to move the ball. They actually have to do progression passing some and throw it. And now all of a sudden, you want the star pass rushers. They become worth a lot. College, they just don't impact the game in the same way. Now, so if Colin Simmons can drop,
I have your diagrams here, by the way.
If Colin Simmons can drop into coverage on 1st and 10 and help deny the quick, easy throws, then guess what happens? It's going to be 2nd and 10. It's going to be 3rd and 8 or whatever. And now he's actually increasing the number of opportunities he has to get in his bag and rush the passer off the edge because they're putting teams in positions where they actually have to do it. If you can't put them in those positions, it doesn't matter.
So say you're on the weak side, flats, and you drop. Let's show this so I can kind of show them. So Colin is going to be that B player, Colin Simmons. So say you drop Colin to those weak side flats where at the top of the screen where the corner would be. Now the corner can back up. They can play different coverages. It increases the odds that a pass will not occur successfully. And so these are little things that you can do. And then, like you said, if that's on 1st and 10 and you drop that, now you're in 2nd and 10. You're forcing more pass. By not rushing Colin Simmons, you actually might be able to allow Colin Simmons to rush more later.
Yes. And Jackson Miles asked, is that why getting home with 4 is valuable? In the NFL, that's like the name of the game. In college, it's actually more like 3. And like that's partly why the flyover was so successful in the Big 12 for a minute there and probably still will be. The flyover defense and the drop 8 stuff that Iowa State made really popular. Georgia plays a lot of drop 8 too. Georgia last year had like 2 or 3 NFL pass rushers, and none of them even had that many sacks because Kirby Smart gets it. And he's like, we're going to chew you up on 3rd and 8, and I'm going to put all these pass rushers on the field, and you're not going to be able to block them. But we're going to get you to 3rd and 8 by not even rushing our edge and just by having really good run defense and 3 anchors up front.
Well, and we're going to freak you out. We're going to be moving those edges all around the line. We're going to scare your quarterback. We're going to take Jalen Walker like the first play of the game, threaten the rush, and we're going to drop him to the flats. Quinn almost throws a pick straight to him to open the game.
Yeah, we're going to cover your running back check down and man coverage with a freak. Yeah. And then you're going to be like, oh, they're rushing. I got to throw to my check down. And then the freak is there.
Mm-hmm. And so that's how Georgia was terrorizing us without even necessarily sending the house.
Yep. So we'll come back to this.
The comment or the diagram?
The diagram.
Okay.
The number 2 point is
add it back.
So for a lot of teams, it's like, well, if Colin Simmons isn't rushing the passer, then who is rushing the passer? Because let's say we drop him into coverage, but then the other team actually throws the ball. And now, like, our best pass rusher isn't even rushing the passer. For a lot of college teams, that would be not great. For Texas, he's not the only good pass rusher on the team. If you use him for something other than pass rush for a play, it's not like you have no chance of affecting the quarterback.
And you're going to see schematically, it's actually going to help everyone get better opportunities to rush the quarterback.
Yeah. So let's get into that. Go back to the diagram real quick.
All right. Let's look at the base. This is the base look. So we're looking at Colin Simmons is in the buck roll. That's our weak side, the short side of the field. And generally you'll do that. Ian has the Y here, which in a passing down, you're probably going to want to do that. But also the advantage, generally the weak side is they won't go formation to the boundary and you can get one-on-ones. But if you know Colin Simmons is there, you're likely gonna start adding tight ends to that side and turning it into a strong side. But when you do that, you see on the opposite side of the field, and it's important that they're on opposite sides of the field, is Anthony Hill at that M, Mike, and then Jelani McDonald, who we've added into the star.
Yeah. Also, the jack is Ethan Burke, or on 3rd down, it's Trey Moore, or it's Colton Bosick, or whoever. So it's not a bum. It's another dangerous guy. If you're the offense, it's like, where do you send help? Do you send help to the side with like 3 different good pass rushers, 2 of whom might blitz, and you got to keep an eye on them? Or do you send help to the singular crazy freak who's alone on the other side? And that becomes a very difficult cat and mouse game for the offense to win.
This was the Will Anderson conundrum when we played them versus Alabama. Sark did a really good job there. Remember, the whole point was like, well, you can stop Will Anderson, but here's Dallas Turner on the other side. That's where it complicates. We have more than that Alabama team. And so that's what's crazy. So say you do divert resources right here. You're going to max protect Colin Simmons. This is what's also really brutal about this style. Say I give a running back and a tight end max protect, and they're to the side of Colin Simmons. They're responsible for him. And then I don't even rush him. So now I've definitely got you to waste a Y in the initial pass rush. Maybe you waste a Y and a running back, and nothing even comes there. So now you've neutralized a lot of their blocking weapons, and they didn't even have to actually block anybody. Meanwhile, Jelani McDonald gets a one-on-one by moving the Ethan Burke jack inside. Now you have this tackle one-on-one with Jelani to an open quarterback side.
Or not at all. Or he just comes free.
Yeah.
Or alternatively, the Mike Anthony Hill walks down and he blitzes the edge instead of the star. And it could be either, and you don't know which one.
Yep. Here's the inverse. What
I probably should have drawn that's even more likely is you have the running back and or the tight end shade to the field, and you slide your line to Colin Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
So you slide the left tackle out, and he takes a wide drop, so Simmons can't get around him. And then you have the left guard also slide way out so that Simmons can't get an inside move. And then on the backside, you have the running back and or the tight end to help pick up the jack or any blitzers off the other edge. Well, now that adds up for you, maybe. Unless if Colin Simmons isn't even rushing, not great. Your best pass protectors are blocking no one. And on the backside, you've got like a running back trying to block Burke or Hill, or he's worried about those two and he doesn't even see McDonald as the guy that's coming off the edge.
Yep.
You get all kinds of problems. And they could do this and they could bring the Will or Mike up the middle. So you like slide and you try to get the running back to look up the backside, and then Hill or LaFau are shooting up inside on a guard or center that got crossed up. So there's a lot of things you can do.
Well, that's why being a damn good edge, even if you're not a good teammate in the locker room, you're a great teammate on the field schematically, because you allowed all these other options to unlock. If he can drop too, specifically. So that's why when you hear immediately, like, I don't want my guys dropping, and sometimes I'm guilty of that too, so don't get me wrong, but there's situations where you do want Colin to drop because Colin can immediately break up the short pass to this Z receiver up top. And like we said, they could potentially waste their max protect resources on a player that's not even going to rush. Meanwhile, we get Anthony Hill or Jelani McDonald a free hit at the quarterback.
Yep. God help somebody if they blitz a safety.
Yeah. So we need to stop the run first with Colin in pass coverage before he can use his pass rush ability? Question mark.
Well, you need to stop the run and the non-progression pass game. So he needs to be good against the run, which he doesn't have to drop into coverage to be good against the run. He's already pretty good against the run, mostly just because
his effort's insane and he's athletic.
Literal jaguar. Nobody can stay in front of him. And you want like the Jalen Walker effect that Connor was just talking about a minute ago, where he's like covering the running back or whatever, and then the little quick, easy dump off passes the quarterback is relying on for steady gains in first and second down are suddenly fraught with peril.
Yeah, that's what Georgia did so well against us. It was they're able to rattle us without actually sending the guy and simulating pressures we can talk about later too. Not on this episode, but start being able to simulate effectively too, man. It's just there's a reason. I think there's a reason quarterbacks kind of across the NFL and college are like on a downward trend. I just think these defenses are giving quarterbacks so much to think about and setting so many traps. It's not a fun time to be a quarterback.
They're not being the coordinators are so spooked that they're not even teaching the quarterbacks what to do. They're just trying to give them pre-programmed answers and then like kill it, scramble.
Well, the problem is like originally, you would really teach them to read defenses, but with how they're disguising now, the good defensive coordinators, you cannot tell what they're going to be in. And even Sark said it on that interview last year. He was like, I don't know what the defense is going to – if they're in a too high shell, I can't read it. They look the same as when they're going to rotate to cover 1 or 3. So you're having to go into these pure progression styles because these aren't read. If the coordinator can't read it that well, you're definitely not going to get the 19-year-old to read it.
Yeah, the college kid can't. Like the Tom Brady, the Drew Brees, the Peyton Manning.
They might be able to read it situationally or the very tiny cues.
Some of those guys got to the point where you could not fool them. You could not disguise enough.
But I feel like, but that's also like, and of course, this would be crazy. I want to see Tom Brady in today's. He would still do fine. But
we saw him not that long ago. He was just fine.
Yeah, but it's the Fangio defense is now like completely taken over. Like this too high shell is like a thing that's interesting because all the quarterbacks seem to be across the board not performing at as high of a level.
He faced Ed Reed. He'd be fine.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like they're reading post snap or situationally. But this is the thing, like, here's little clues, and Ian even drew it on the diagram. You'll have a too high shell, but you'll see the strong safety is like 3 steps ahead of the free safety. He's going to rotate down most likely, or he's in a half field. But there's like little things like that maybe you can read. But if it's 4-2-5 and it's too high in 1st and 10, you almost have to go pure progression stuff. But the quarterbacks are just not going to be as sound as they were in the past until another offensive innovation comes through, I think. Are you down with that?
Yeah, have you seen that clip where Belichick and Brady are talking about Ed Reed?
Yeah.
And he like shows one coverage and then turns around and runs to the spot he knows Peyton Manning is going to throw without even looking to make sure he's actually doing it.
Yep. He makes sure to sell it. Yeah.
That's not like there have been Richard Sherman to do stuff like that. Just everything Connor is saying is right, but also Tom Brady would be fine.
Yeah, well, that's the one I'm not necessarily going to argue about, but it's like your average quarterback are struggling in that regard. But this, guys, is why edge matters. Of course, like concrete stuff, but edge matters schematically a lot. And also it matters to have a bunch of other players that can pass rush. This is just, there's really no right answer here if you're an opposing offense besides don't drop back pass.
And hybridization matters, but hybridization is not, I get to play a position that's a hybrid position. It means you actually have to be good at multiple different things.
Yeah.
You can't just be a small, fast tight end and be like, I'm a hybrid because I'm a tight end. Like, I got to block somebody.
Hybrid and skill set, not hybrid and body type.
Yeah. Tweeners versus hybrids.
You know what I think we forgot to do today? Not me. We need to hear a word from David McClellan.
I'm just going to say, guys, you probably need a fiduciary financial advisor. And I've got the guy for you. His name is David McClellan with Forum Financial. He works broadly and deeply with his clients as a financial life coach. And he should know something about coaching because he won several national championships as a swimmer for the University of Texas. He specializes in financial planning and has contributed numerous articles to Kipling on the topic of retirement tax bombs. So contact David today to be your fiduciary financial planner and schedule a 1-hour consultation to assess your financial situations. The free consultation is available, so just give him a call. The number is 312-933-8823. That's 312-933-8823. His email is also in the description below.
We'll give you a little bonus content. We don't want to leave you on an ad. All right, Ian Homer, what's your post-spring top 5? Ryan, are you talking our players? Are you talking teams? What are you talking?
Top 5 teams?
I don't know.
Top 5 Longhorns?
Yeah, Ryan will tell us if he's still chatting. We could go either way. National.
Texas is in there.
Yeah.
Clemson, for me, Clemson. I think
Clemson, I'll give you Clemson top 5. I like that.
Alabama for me.
Too many questions for Ohio State?
I mean, they might be top 5. I don't think they can win the title. It's how I usually don't think of it in terms of rank order. I just think who can win the title. And I don't think Ohio State can, but I think they could be 10-2 and make a little bit of a run, 11-1 maybe. I don't know. I haven't looked at their schedule very closely. But so probably Ohio State's a top 5 team. I just wouldn't expect them to get to the finish line. How many teams is that? Georgia for sure.
That would make 5, I think.
Georgia, Bama, Clemson, Ohio State. I think that's my top 5. Who am I missing? Don't say Penn State.
I'm not. I'll never say Penn State, brother.
Promise me.
Oregon.
I just did Oregon for the Substack. this morning.
How'd you feel about them?
Kind of like Ohio State. Really good team. Not going to win the title.
What about Notre Dame?
No. CJ Carr is not ready for that at all. Unless their Virginia transfer receiver is unbelievable. I mean, Jaden Greathouse makes a big leap. I don't think so, though. They'll be good for sure.
Who are your dark horses? Maybe not going to be top 5, but are going to make the playoffs and are going to give a run. Arizona State?
Maybe Arizona State. They kept Jordan Tyson. That was a big deal. They seem really well coached. Clemson, I don't know. It seems like maybe everybody's kind of with me on Clemson.
Yeah, Clemson's not a dark horse. Yeah.
I was early on them, and now, Paul noted Auburn the other day. I haven't.
It'd be time for Auburn to rise up, win something, and then disappear again for a little while.
Hugh Freeze. Everybody's been criticizing how he's been doing there, but he did a lot of actual freshman high school recruiting the last couple of years rather than just transfer quick fixes.
Yeah.
And now Auburn has got defensive linemen and receivers that are next level. So I think that one is a really interesting one.
Who's their number one? Coleman? Cam Coleman?
Yeah, and they got that Georgia Tech guy too, I think. Or Singleton, right?
Yeah.
And I think they have some other guy, 5-star youngster, that could be really good.
And we know Freeze will do what it takes also to win if need be.
LSU, I haven't studied a ton. Defensive tackle was obviously a really scary spot for them, and they still don't know what to do with Harold Perkins.
What about SMU?
Arizona State and SMU might make the playoffs, but we're not going to go much further than that.
I don't know. I feel like Arizona State might get could get a round or two in.
Charles Cowart, if Aller takes the next step, Aller is not going to take the next step because his receivers are going to be even worse than they were last year. Because last year he had Tyler Warren, who was an unbelievable receiver at tight end. And Tyler Warren would freaking block people.
Mm-hmm.
He was amazing. That guy was like unreal, super underrated. And now he's gone. As is Abdul Carter, who was a true hybrid edge, who could, I don't know how often they dropped him into coverage, but he had been like a linebacker before. He could do it. They lost both those guys. I think Penn State is going to take a step back.
How about this with Tech? I keep seeing all the articles, and admittedly, I'm just not super Big 12 locked in anymore, but I just keep hearing about the roster that they built. So do you think Tech has an outside shot to win the league?
No.
Because if they win the league, they're more than likely in. So that's what we're saying.
No.
Why?
McGuire has this innate need to run his quarterback 20 times and get them all injured. And their roster is like, it's all like guys that were like really good portal prospects that went to Tech because Tech was paying ridiculous money.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that's going to work. There's like bust potential all over that whole deal. Like you bring in a bunch of super expensive mercenaries making unreal money. You got the locals that maybe have been trying to earn it for years. I don't think that's going to work.
We'll see.
Michigan,
We'll have to see. Roaster makes a good point. We'll have to see how cohesive LSU and Tech's rosters are after bringing in so many transfers, albeit good transfers.
LSU, I'm a little more interested in. I need to look into them more.
I want to look into Tech because I keep hearing people telling me that I need to pay attention to Tech, and I just need to see if that's just purely hype based on who they brought in. I like McGuire too. Not as a Texas fan, I do not like McGuire, but as just like a high school football fan in the state of Texas, I like McGuire.
He seemed best when he was paired with Aranda and vice versa. where Aranda brought high-level strategy and smarts and coaching, and then McGuire like
Brought culture and energy.
culture and energy. And I don't know about that. Oh, and then maybe one more question. Ryan Nelson asks, and you think Michigan is being overhyped too? I'm seeing borderline top 10 hype seems crazy after last season. If they're being hyped as a top 10 team, then that is crazy. I did a deep dive on not one of our deep dives, but
A personal deep dive.
Personal deep dive. I wrote a freelance piece for HimGo blog a couple weeks ago, and I was watching his high school games in the spring and studying Michigan's roster and studying the new off. I'm pretty sure Michigan is going to take some L's this year as just an investment on Bryce Underwood's future. He is not going to be very good in year one. And he's probably wildly overhyped for what he'll be in year 3 too. But for sure, year 1, there's no way.
I'm sure MGO blog loved that article you wrote.
I haven't got, it's going to be in their annual. I guess it's not even the MGO blog. It's Seth Fisher's annual. I've not gotten any feedback as of yet. So,
sure, that's why they brought you in, to be like, your quarterback's actually not going to be that good.
I didn't say that exactly. But it was,
like a lesser version of last year's Clemson. Sure, there's good-looking athletes at the skill positions. This is Tech, I believe. But something isn't meshing in a conference with elite coaching. Maybe not Tech then. Maybe LSU. Charles, who are you talking about here with this
I think
comment?
he's talking about Tech.
Or maybe it is Tech. I don't know. I need to check Tech out. I admittedly just completely. I thought I was gonna stay watching the Big 12 because it's a fun league, man. Just as an observer, but I just didn't watch any Big 12 last year, man.
It is really fun, but I sympathize with everybody else being like, it just doesn't matter. I don't care. It's hard to care.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt is a really fun conference sometimes too, and so is the MAC.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of with the Big 12 now. It's we'll see when your one guy gets in, whoever does climb to the top of that, shouts out that it's not going to be a bad team. It's going to be a good team, but there's not a lot of emotional investment because there's often not a through line where you can pick preseason to postseason and watch a team because it's normally just based on who has the roster cycle. Do you think Arizona State takes a step back losing Scatterbo?
No. Although he was
fun, man.
He was great. He was legitimately great.
Yeah, what a player. All right.
He wasn't just a product of the system.
No, definitely not. Whenever he was catching fades.
Yeah. But that'll be fine.
I agree. I think Dillingham is a player. Also keeps donating all of his money to his coaches and charitable causes and
please screw this up, OU. Please.
Yeah, please do not hire him, OU. Because he's not gonna be fun if he gets hired. And we have to face him. All right, chat. Thank you guys. I appreciate all the comments. Ian, thank you as always too. This was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Later, y'all.